Hello, and thank you for attending our November seminar. We've seen such success with this seminar series, and that's because of your attendance, so thank you for being here. I am Jessica Smith, and I'm the substitute teacher trainer here at study.org. Today we're going to review general expectations that school districts have for substitute teachers. Now I want to start off with a question, so if you'll just submit your response in the questions area of the panel, I'd like to review what you'd say. So the question is, why did you sign up for the webinar today? I'll give you a few seconds to answer that, then review some of the things you said. Some great things are coming in. One person said, I signed up to find out how to get more substitute teaching jobs. We will review several expectations of things that you can do in order to improve the likelihood of you being requested as a substitute teacher. These are things that will take you above and beyond the call of duty. Another person said, I registered for this webinar to be a better substitute teacher. I get so thrilled when I hear people doing things to improve themselves just because they want to, so thank you for your attendance. Another person said, I want to make sure I'm doing all that I can to help my school district. We're all here because we want to improve the lives of the students we work with, so this is a great reason to attend a webinar. Now, if you don't feel like your expectations or your questions were met today, you're welcome to email me, jessica@study.org, and I can help you directly. As you can see, the title says the ABCs of professionalism. Today we are literally going to go through the ABCs. Each letter will represent a different suggestion. So let's get started, of course, with letter A. The first suggestion for you is basic but extremely important. Arrive each at least 20 minutes early to substitute teaching assignments. I realize that several of you are likely already showing up quite early. I know many substitute teachers who arrive at least 30 minutes or more before. When I was substitute teaching, there was one time I can remember particularly, I beat the school secretary there because I was so nervous about finding the school and so nervous about what the lesson plans were going to say. I was so early, and she was just like, who are you? And I said, I'm a substitute teacher. She said, wow, you are really early. But we recommend showing 20 to 30 minutes early to substitute teaching jobs. One of my favorite quotes is, I owe all my success in life to having been always a quarter of an hour before my time. Lord Nelson says this, and there are likely several interpretations we can have of this quote, but I like that he attributes his success to being early. The next suggestion is to be flexible and willing to help where needed. If you are interested in getting requested for substitute teaching jobs, this suggestion is going to be key for you. There will be times that you show up to the school and find that the job that you signed up for and the job they're expecting you to do are not the same. During these moments, this is your time to shine. Demonstrate a willing attitude, and if you're comfortable with this situation, express a desire to help. The school secretaries are powerful people, and doing things like this will make you stand out as a substitute teacher. The last suggestion on this slide is to contact the office in emergency situations. As I mentioned, the school secretaries are powerful people and should be kept in the loop. If you have an emergency situation, maybe a medical emergency, be sure to contact the main office immediately. This can be done in several ways. One, there might be an emergency call button in the classroom. Now, this is to be only used in major emergencies. A substitute teacher in the district when I was teaching high school rang this emergency bell because she couldn't find the pencils located in the classroom. Now, that is an annoying situation, but definitely doesn't constitute an emergency for ringing that button. So be sure to keep these for only major emergencies. Or you could send 2 students down to the main office to ask for help. Or there might be a phone located in the classroom and you can call down to the main office. Now, while we're talking about emergency situations, I would encourage you to review the school's policies for handling emergency situations. Likely they all have procedures set up on what to do in case there's a lockdown or a fire drill or an earthquake. And so if you substitute teach at the same school regularly, be sure to review these policies for emergency situations. Likely they'll be in a flip chart or a binder in the classroom, and you can just ask the school secretary where to locate these. As I mentioned, this seminar is addressing the ABCs of professionalism. So letter D represents demonstrating a positive classroom management skills. Now, I mentioned before that we're talking about professionalism today, but you'd be surprised at how much your classroom management skills and your professionalism are linked together. If you are looking for the ways to maintain remain positive in the classroom during the teaching day, I would encourage you to listen to our September seminar. We talk about strategies for preventing inappropriate student behavior, and that can be found at the Bus Stop blog. Smiling is one of the best tools you can have in your tool belt in the classroom. If you find yourself often yelling at students as part of your classroom management strategy, this is not the best way. I would encourage you to review the material in the Substitute Teacher Handbook or the online Sub-Skills training course. This has amazing classroom management skills and strategies that allow you to stay positive throughout the day. Now, early morning calls should be answered by you. If you live in a school district where you still get phone calls bright and early in the morning, make sure you're the person that answers the phone. I recommend this for a couple of reasons. First, if it's an automated phone call, there will be information that's pertinent for you to know. So make sure you're the first to the phone. Secondly, if there's a live person on the other end of the phone call, you'll want to make sure that you present yourself professionally, and a groggy roommate or spouse might not make that impression. This last suggestion is probably the most important that you'll get during this seminar, and that is to follow the lesson plan always. The biggest complaint that we hear against substitute teachers is that they don't follow the lesson plan. Now, I realize that there are some challenges involved with following the lesson plan, but you're just going to have to deal with these as best you can and realize it's just part of the job, but you do need to complete those lesson plans to the best of your ability. Realize that several permanent teachers will leave an abundance of work for you to do during the day. Consider this an act of mercy. They're saying that they don't want you to run out of material, so do as much as you can of the lesson plan and then thank the permanent teacher for leaving enough to fill the time. The letter G represents grade any papers that you hand out yourself. If you find extra time during the school day and end up implementing a fill-in activity, make sure you grade the work yourself. You don't want to overburden the permanent teacher by collecting an assignment and requiring the permanent teacher to provide feedback. If you require the students to do the work, then they deserve to receive some feedback on their performance. Now, you can grade papers in several different ways. One suggestion is you can post the answer key somewhere in the classroom where students can check their own answers. 2, you can read the answers aloud and students can grade their own work. Or 3, you can do the traditional thing by collecting the assignments and making notes on each of the papers as needed. The next suggestion I have is have discretion in what you share with students. I've heard teachers who talk to students about their divorce or their dating life or the parties they attended over the weekend. This is completely inappropriate and should be avoided. Introducing yourself to the teacher next door at the beginning of the day might prove useful for you. If you have questions throughout the day, the teacher next door will likely be able to answer those for you. Now, this introduction at the beginning of the day should be very quick. Everyone is busy in the morning, so be sure to be respectful of the teacher's time as well as your own time. A few months ago, I asked substitute teachers whether or not it was appropriate to teach in jeans, and it sparked quite the debate at the bus stop blog, and over 550 comments were shared. And if you're interested in reviewing this, I would encourage you to stop by the bus stop blog. As I read through these comments, the majority of substitute teachers said that it was inappropriate to teach in jeans, and I'm glad they said this. As I discussed these comments with district personnel, they all seem to agree that if you are interested in getting a permanent teaching position at the school district, jeans should be avoided. So realize that your dress does matter on whether or not you're going to get a future job. Dressing appropriately is helpful in gaining respect of students, and I think this has more to do with the fact that we act more professionally when we dress more professionally. Guidelines for what is appropriate for teachers are as follows. For men, consider wearing a shirt and tie. You can always remove the tie or undo the neck button and roll up the sleeves if you find yourself overdressed, and slacks are, of course, are a must. For women, avoid uncomfortable clothing and shoes. Select outfits that are nice, but you can also bend down, stoop over, and write on the board with ease. The next suggestion is keep students until the bell rings, and this is part of the legalities of substitute teaching. You are legally responsible for the students from the start of class until the bell rings, so keep them the entire time. And if you dismiss the students early, it won't reflect well on you. If the students walk down the hall and the principal says, "Why are you out of class?" and they say, "The sub let us out early," this is not what you want to, the impression you want to leave with the school principal. Now, maintaining confidentiality is key. If you are substitute teaching in a resource classroom or a special education class, please keep the names of the students you work with private. For example, if a man substitute teaches in a resource class and ends up working with a boy in his neighborhood, and then he goes home and tells his wife about this little boy, she now knows that boy has a learning disability. Now, this isn't fair to the family or that little boy. So not only is it important to keep students who are in special education classes, keep that confidential, but all students that you work with. I often hear of situations where substitute teachers are in grocery stores and a parent comes up and says, "Hey, I heard you subbed in my son's class the other day. How was he?" All you should say is, "It was a great day. I really enjoyed substitute teaching for Mrs. So-and-so." Since you aren't there on a daily basis, it's important for you to keep judgments to yourself. Any concerns you had about the school day should only be discussed with the permanent teacher or your immediate supervisors. Now, there's not much to add to this next suggestion. Never leave students unsupervised. This goes again along with the legalities of being a substitute teacher. You are responsible for those students. There are two parts for this next suggestion of only take things that are essential for the school day. First, a sub-pack bag is something that I'd completely recommend for substitute teachers. A sub-pack bag includes maybe office supplies and fill-in activities. 75% of permanent teachers say that they leave a lesson plan. Now, only 25% of substitute teachers say that lesson plans were left. This is a huge discrepancy, and as I mentioned earlier, substitute teachers should always have their own activities to follow up on in case there aren't any lesson plans left. There's nothing more frustrating than a classroom full of students who have nothing to do. The second part of this section involves leaving valuables locked in your car or at home. Take only things that are essential into the classrooms. We hear too often things being taken from substitute teachers, so I'd encourage you to leave purses, wallets, cell phones, and other valuables in a safe place. Lastly, for this slide is a suggestion from a school district employee. It's fairly common that substitute teachers just sit at the desk and read a book. We would encourage you to leave your novels and homework at home and participate in the day's learning activities. Now, it could be that there is time for silent reading throughout the day, and you should model the expected behavior of reading a book. But you should also be aware of what's going on, and if you take Harry Potter 7, it's going to just pull you in so much that you'll likely be unaware of what's going on in the classroom. So be sure to just grab a book off the shelf, model the expected behavior, but not be engrossed with the novel that you're reading. Questions are important at the beginning of the school day. This means that as you check into the main office, have some questions ready that you can ask the school secretary. Questions such as, where are the restrooms located? Is there going to be an assembly today? Am I responsible for any extra duties, lunch duty or recess duty, etc.? Asking these questions will demonstrate that you're a with it sub. At the end of the teaching assignment, you should always leave a substitute teacher report. Teachers want to know what you did during the day while they were gone. So on your substitute teacher report, you should include how much of the lesson plan you were able to complete, where the assignments you collected can be found, and the students who were especially helpful during the day. Remember that the substitute teacher report is the only impression, besides what the students say about you, that the permanent teacher will have of you, so make sure that you present yourself well. Now, I would encourage you to leave the substitute teacher report detailed enough that a permanent teacher can get a clear vision of what went on during the day. For example, I was gone. I had to leave school one day, so I had a sub, and I requested a sub that I heard was really great. And she did so many things really well. But when I came back, the substitute teacher report, all it said on it was, Kellen is the worst student I have ever worked with. Now, I had never had any problems with Kellen, so I couldn't get a vibe of what had gone on in the classroom. And that was the only thing. She didn't mention anything about the lesson plans or what had happened with Kellen, and so I didn't know how to go about figuring out what happened. So the only thing I could do, I walked up to Kellen and I said, hey, how did things go yesterday while I was gone? And he was like, that sub hated me, and I don't know why. And I was like, really? I said, well, there must have been a reason. Like, did you two get off on the wrong foot? And he said, I really can't think of anything that happened, but she hated me. And I said, there had to have been something. Can you think of anything? And he says, well, all I can think of is when I walked into the room, she greeted us at the door, which is a great thing that a substitute teacher should do. She said, hi, I'm Miss Winter. I'm glad to be here today. Come on into the classroom. And he said, hi, Miss Winter, I'm Mr. Summer, and went and sat down at the desk. And that's all I know of to this day of what happened while the sub was in the classroom. So be sure to leave enough detail on that substitute teacher report so it's helpful for the permanent teacher. The suggestion for letter S is also from a sub-manager in a school district. It says, simply do not engage in power struggles with students. Now, there could be times when a student says, you can't make me do this, you can't force me to do this. Remain calm and respond by saying, you are absolutely right, I can't force you to do anything. This is what is expected of you today. And so you do need to get the assignment done, but I'll come back in a few minutes and check on you. And just walk away calmly. Don't show the student that he or she has even fazed you. Remaining calm is key in avoiding power struggles with students. Several sub-managers suggested this next one. Teach as much as possible. You are responsible for teaching the students the material on the lesson plan. I would recommend avoiding doing things that get you off task from that lesson plan, such as introducing yourself in great depth. Do whatever you can to make sure that teaching is going on. But one way that you can improve your teaching skills is by reviewing Chapter 2 in the Substitute Teacher Handbook or the Teaching Strategies section in the Sub-Skills Online Training course. For the letter U, it says, use the resources available at study.org. There are so many free resources available to you, and most can be found at study.org. You're taking advantage of one of them right now, which is attending this free seminar series. There are many more that can be found at study.org and the bus.blog as well. And we'd also encourage you to sign up for our weekly sub-suggestions newsletter. We talk about classroom management tips, professionalism tips, and then give you links to a lot of fill-in activities that you can have in your sub-pack. Now this next one, if you really want to shine as a substitute teacher, I would recommend doing this. This is not an expectation of the school district, but if you really want to stand out, this is where you can really stand out. And that is volunteer yourself to the office staff during the periods when you don't have students. If you walk down to the main office and say, I don't have any students right now, if there's anything I can help with, just let me know. They would, whether or not they have something for you, it will make you stand out more than any other sub. In the news this week, there have been cases of teachers bullying students, and I feel like this is more of a problem than we realize. So when speaking to or about students, be respectful. If you expect respect from students, you need to first show respect to them. And the other part of this suggestion is when speaking of teachers, also be respectful. If the permanent teacher doesn't leave a lesson plan, or if the materials aren't set out like you'd need them to be, don't roll your eyes in front of the students or make any comments about the permanent teacher. Be sure to always portray a positive attitude towards the other teachers that work in the school. Now I realize that X is a little bit of a stretch, but hopefully you can go with me on this one. Reflection is such a powerful tool in improving your performance as a substitute teacher. Realize that there were likely several mistakes that you made in a day. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Look at these objectively and improve where needed. You may even want to consider having a teaching journal that identifies your strengths and weaknesses. We live in a time when it is encouraged to ignore your weaknesses and focus on your strengths, but if you want to improve, calmly look at these mistakes that you made and figure out a way to make yourself better, because we can all improve. At the end of the day, I'd encourage you to take time to walk around and thank those who were particularly helpful. Thank the students who were helpful. Thank the teachers next door. Leave a note of thanks for the permanent teacher for letting you substitute teach in his or her classroom. Thank the school secretary. Thank the principal if you see him or her. There's likely many people that helped you during the day, so be sure to show gratitude to those people. And lastly, zap negative thoughts. Not only should you work to stay positive throughout the day, but be positive after hours as well. And this extends beyond the classroom. Be aware of what you put online about students or schools where you work. Be aware that your Facebook status or your blog or your tweets can be accessed by school district personnel even if you think you have your settings on private. So always show a positive, happy attitude to the places where you substitute teach in person and online. As teachers, we put ourselves as an example in society, so you need to take this very seriously and remember that professionalism happens online. Professionalism needs to be maintained while you're at the grocery store or at a football game. Likely there will be students watching, so be careful of how you act outside the classroom as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend our seminar today. It's been a lot of fun reading your comments and sharing with you. If there are things that we didn't get to that you have concerns about, be sure to email me, jessica@steady.org, and I'd be happy to complete them. I'd also recommend reviewing our September and October seminars that can be found at thebusstop.steady.org. Thanks again for attending, and as always, thanks for all you do in the classroom.